Good afternoon, gents.
Hi.
Hello.
How are you today?
Well, thank you.
So I'd like to know, how is it that, one, you've maintained your relationship over the years in such an authentic way? Because it could be easy to get caught up, right?
Yeah.
And I think this is because of sort of traditional or stereotypical ideas about masculinity, right? When we think about men and we think about men in business, it's like the Godfather, you know what I mean? You're in the back rooms, you're making the deals, etc.
Yeah.
So as men, how were you taught to be vulnerable with one another, and how have you maintained that as part of your relationship?
I mean, I tell these guys I love them so often, and this is the part that I think we don't share enough. Is we are very conscious of how lucky we are. We're very conscious that our dynamic breaks all the rules. You know, the rules say don't work with friends and family. But so, because we're also not idiots, we then understand why those rules were brought into play. So you don't work with friends and family because eventually somebody wants to be the boss. Eventually somebody wants to control the money. Eventually somebody butts heads. We, even from before we could call it a business, were very clear on the role definition and very clear on the fact that yes, there's always going to be competition, but all competition is healthy. And the way I define that is I'm competing with both of them all the time, you know, when we go up and we do shows together. But a win for them is a win for me. We are all very comfortable with each other's success. We all would like to wish endless success on everybody. And then we all understand what our role within the business is. Our business is not about making money. Our business is about making people laugh, and money is a byproduct of that. And if I wish that on everybody, if money could be a byproduct, a side effect, a consequence of the thing you do, instead of the reason you do it, already you quarter to happy, you know what I mean?
I also think it's like Joe was talking about the competition thing. There's never a point where I'm upset because Don's winning or Jay's winning. It comes back to if one of them win, we all win.
Yeah.
And like I was saying earlier, you know, a lot of the guys in the industry, or a lot of comics in the industry, are competing on a level where they want to be the best. They want to be the one in front. So when somebody else is the person that they want to be, instead of celebrating that person's win, you hate them, you're angry that they're the one. You start finding faults with that person and the way they perform and the way they are in life and the Instagram, and you look for faults as to why it shouldn't be them. Whereas with us, I'm happy to say I'm comfortable in the fact that I know that I'm the least famous Goliath. Like when people see me in public, they always say, oh, are you Jason or Donovan? I'm always the other Goliath. But it doesn't bother me because the other Goliath is somewhere I never expected to be. I was going to work in a call center my entire life. Now I'm the other Goliath. I'm already winning.
Best name?
This industry it's very ego-driven. There's a lot of adrenaline around you all the time before you go up on stage, when you're on stage, and you're often on stage with a lineup of other guys who all want to walk away being the best, you know?
Want that spotlight.
And I think it happens to a lot of guys where, and we've seen it, you know, we've seen relationships just change, you know, we often have discussions in the office where we go, wow, you know, where did this person come from all of a sudden? We didn't know this guy was like this, which is probably their real selves, to be honest with you. And I think we've just got to be so cognizant of not letting all of this ego take over any one of us, because we'll spot it immediately, you know?
It seems as if what you're saying is that there's a balance between the individual and the collective.
Yeah.
And I think in many ways we all experience this, whether it's in the context of our workplace, it's in the context of a family, it's in the context of a couple or a romantic relationship, right? You're seen as the Amponsas or the Goliaths. But then the question is, who am I in that? So how do you maintain your sense of identity, knowing that you are the other Goliath and you like being the other Goliath, and there's nothing wrong with being the other Goliath, but then also really enjoy that, but still enjoy being part of the Goliaths, right? And I think that all of us face that in different aspects and different parts of ourselves. So my question to you is, on an individual level, how then do you maintain your sense of self? Both in terms of this group, but also in terms of being, you know, Donovan, Jason, the other Goliath. How do you make sure you stay in touch with who you are?
I'm going to take this just because I've been thinking about this, you know, lately, because I'm very conscious of the anomaly that kind of is this group, and I think it comes. The first step rather is acceptance. So I know who I am, I like me. These guys know who I am, they like me. These guys never expect me to be anything other than me. And I the same. So I find like, you know, my dad's an alcoholic, and our relationship changed completely, and we have a fantastic relationship. The second I stopped expecting him to not be an alcoholic, the second I went, why am I expecting you to be something you're not? That's where my frustration was coming from. So now when he does things, I don't even get angry, because I'm like, no, you're an alcoholic. That's kind of what alcoholics do. So I'm not saying these guys are alcoholics, but there's a safety within our group and an acceptance of your core. They know my truth, I know their truth, all the good, the bad, and you know, so we expect Donovan, when the dress code says smart casual, to go out of his way to look better than us. We don't take offense. That's his vibe. Which you know
And
what I
he'll
mean?
say that he doesn't.
No,
but
he'll
we
say
know.
he'll
We
say
know.
that he doesn't.
I just threw this on. Yeah, whatever.
I speak over everybody and don't listen. They know that's Jason. How can you get upset if he's been doing that, you know, from the beginning? And it's weird that I think we were all in a no-nonsense space in our lives when we started, which meant we showed ourselves, you know, fully, and therefore we expect, and now there's no surprises.
So you deal with each other, with yourselves and each other as you are, not on the basis of expectations.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Because so often expectations are just disappointments waiting to happen.
Right.
And
Nice.
when we even get into this idea of expectations, and we ask ourselves, well, where did those come from?
Yeah.
It's like they came from the
Society.
ether, right? Like we just picked it up. And so then all of a sudden we mold our lives and we create this bar that has nothing to do with actually who we are or what
Amen.
we want. But it hasn't always been sunshine and roses for you all. You've spoken quite openly, Jason, about some of your challenges around mental health and depression. I'm interested to know, what was it that you really did to help yourself heal and to grow and to come out of that? And then I'd be interested in hearing from you all, what were the ways that you were there to support Jason, and what was that experience, or is that experience, like for you on an ongoing basis?
So for me, it was, and you know, I very recently learned that we throw the word depression around, you know, very, very, very loosely, and so I went through a phase where everything that could go wrong went wrong, just kind of before comedy. And in retrospect now, my thinking is that everything is helping me, which is years later. So I kind of go, thank God I went through all of those things, because I would have never started stand up. But in honesty, the way I picked myself up was, number one, my mom never stopped believing that I was great. And she told me that every day. So even when I felt useless and I felt like, I mean, I had no money, my business had just folded, my girlfriend, and who I believed was the love of my life, was clearly not left, but started dating my best friend. So I lost not only her, but I lost him, and he was a crutch in my life, a great support structure. And I just felt that I've lost my business, I've lost my money. With that, my perception of my stature within the community that I affected, because I was always the guy that was okay, always the guy that did well. So, you know, my self-confidence there took a huge knock. My folks had just gone through a terrible divorce. But the way I started was I realized that I'd somehow manifested this version of myself, and I didn't like that guy. And I just started with liking me. And weirdly enough, I started with physical first, because I was always a fat kid, and I speak openly about being a chubby kid and the social impacts that come with that. And then I just went that I have to stop pretending to like me, and I have to actually like me. And because I was always very good at pretending, I've always been perceived to be a confident young man, but I was always so self-conscious, hyperly so. And I got to a point where I started small. So I was like, instead of trying to change my entire perception of myself, let me start with, well, what do you like? And I was like, well, people had complimented me on my hands. And I was like, every morning I would wake up and go, yes, your hands are looking extra nice today. Those are cute hands. Somebody wants to hold these hands, you know. And then I started with my skin. That's not looking nice now because it's winter, but I was like, you got good skin for a man. And I would wake up every morning, and I kid you not, look at myself in the mirror and say my affirmations and just go, your skin's looking beautiful, your hands are looking beautiful, the combo, oh my goodness, you're unstoppable. And it was weird, after about a month of doing it, whenever I looked in the mirror, I stopped seeing a fat guy. I saw great skin and I saw good hands. And once I'd got that down, I then started with something so simple as I went, okay, cool, now that I like things that are nice, let me have a look at the things that I don't like. And I started with my smile. I always felt like I had a bit of a lopsided, quirky smile, and I looked at it one day and said, it may be lopsided and maybe all those things, but it's cute. And I said it to myself for 30 days until I honestly believed it. I worked it so hard, and because I was just conscious of the fact that I've got to invest in me. I've got to get me right. If I'm not right, my life is never going to come right. Because there's always these things popping up, and we're trained to kind of help everybody but yourself. And and these guys will tell you, I just spent so much time. I then came out with developed a hashtag, which I actually need to start using again because it worked so well. And the hashtag was Love My Life, because after 2 years in comedy, I couldn't believe my life from where I'd come. And it wasn't a boast, it wasn't a brag to say my life is better than yours, but it was a reminder to myself on a daily basis, because you've got to remind yourself every day, because it's easy to be miserable and sad. Happiness is the difficult thing to maintain. So every day I would remind myself by typing the hashtag Love My Life that there was a time where I wanted to die. That's how much I hated my life. And it was those small psychological changes that I think brought me into a space where every now and then I still get a bit down and under the weather, and don't feel nice. But I managed to understand that I feel like we in a society where it's almost indoctrinated that your normal becomes sad. You ask somebody how they are, they go, I'm tired, I'm overworked, I'm stressed, I'm broke. And if that's your normal, it just started making sense, because I'm a logical person, that if my normal is sad, tired, or depressed, all of these things, that when a happy day comes, my brain is going to reject this as an abnormality. So then I would be happy for a short time and would default immediately back to the normal. And I meet so many people who kind of feel that way. So then I started training myself to have happiness as my base, good mood as my everyday. So now when something bad happens, all the alarm bells go off. I stop, I investigate. Why did this happen? Why do I feel this way? What does this mean? And searching for the lesson, because if I say things like everything is helping me or everything is happening for a reason, then I've got to back it up and not be I can't contradict myself and be a hypocrite. I've then got to go, cool, something terrible's happened. Why did this happen? What was I supposed to learn? What am I going to need? What do I take from this? And just kind of psyched myself into this methodology that life is like high school or school. You can't go to matric if you haven't passed standard 9 or grade 11. So life will keep you in grade 11. Sometimes you feel like, why am I going through this? I'm still going through this. Why is this happening? And sometimes it's just because you haven't learned the lesson. And if you don't learn the lesson in grade 11, you can't pass the exams to take you into matric and the next phase of your life. So now I've just become more conscious of when something's going wrong, it means there's something for me to learn. It means I need something, from this situation. Stop everything. Investigate. Why am I feeling this way? What should I learn? What's the route out? And keep it moving.
And there are a few really key things.
I'm sorry.
No, I mean, that was a good ass sermon, right?
Thank you.
I think there are a few things that come out of what you're saying. And one of them is, first of all, this relationship with yourself.
Yes.
Because again, we live in such an externally oriented world,
Yeah.
and you being in the entertainment industry at the epicenter of that. But to be able to take the time to actually have a conversation with yourself in the morning, right, is something that not a lot of people do.
Absolutely.
So that's something that comes through really clearly. I think too, the really interesting thing that you're saying is that you are in control,
Yeah.
right? So it's not that you were a victim of your circumstances. It was something as basic as looking at your hands, which are quite lovely, by the way.
Thank you.
Looking at your hands, looking at your skin, and saying, actually, I like these things about myself.
Yeah.
It's about making a deliberate choice. So it seems like it was very empowering.
I decided to love me.
You
decided to
decided.
fall in love with me.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And to stay there is the really important thing.
Is the really difficult thing.
Yeah.
The maintenance
Yeah.
Of love. But I guess it's like any other relationship, which is really what
Takes work.
self-care is about, right? It's not just about the luxurious spa days, and don't get me wrong, I love the spa, but it's really about that daily relationship with yourself.
Yeah.
And so you two, what is this dynamic like, watching someone that you really love and care about, who's your partner, in effect, struggle in this particular way?
As much as, it was very heavy, all of the things that he spoke about, and as I got to learn all of these things, it's very strange how all I wanted to do was just help him get better, because him shining would make me shine as well, because he was just that beacon, you know, so to speak. So yeah, I mean, I'll do anything for him.
What's so fabulous about that is sometimes when we're in our worst moments, and particularly when people are suffering from things like depression, as you said, you felt like you were useless. Knowing that there's somebody who's looking at you and who's actually saying that even at your worst, what you perceive to be your worst, you matter to me, you make a difference in my life, you make my life better. That's a really beautiful thing.
So Jason, all my life, has been like a big brother to me. To see him go through that, it was a rough time because, like he said, he'd built up this perception of who Jason Goliath was. Even before he was famous, people knew Jason from Macro. They knew Jason from, he was the guy with the M3. He was the guy who always did well. He was one of the youngest sales managers or marketing managers at a Macro ever. Like, he's always someone that I've always looked up to. And to see him go down and be in that space where, like you said, there were points where he wanted to die. I was very worried about the guy. And that's actually how we got into comedy, was during that process, because I wasn't aware of the entire process, but we kind of sat down and he told me about what had happened and how he's lost his business and losing everything and moving, parents getting divorced. And because I'd been there, it felt like it was happening to me. It was my family. It was my brother is losing everything. And it was a tough thing to see. But at the same time, I was also working in a job that I hated every single day. I worked as a call center agent. And to see him in that vulnerable position made me realize that my space wasn't as bad as I think it is. Because as much as, yes, I was broke at the end of every month, I knew that at the end of the month, I'd be getting a salary. And Jay's always been on my case. The big brother figure, always telling me where I was going wrong, what I was doing wrong. And it was great to have the opportunity to motivate, and I felt like I was motivating him and we were pushing forward together.
If there's someone watching right now, young kid from Eldos, Katanga, somewhere else, right, that's thinking, I really want my life to be different, and each of you had to give that kid one piece of advice, what would that word of advice be?
Believe in yourself and stop caring about what other people think. You are enough.
You are enough.
You are enough. And you can be great. The world we live in, it's 2019. You can be anything you want to be. It doesn't matter where you come from. I tell my kids all the time, believe in yourself. Nothing's going to fail. Do the right things for the right reasons.
Do the right things for the right reasons.
Just be yourself, you know? So simple, so easy to overlook. But when you really get to the core of it, and the only thing that you can be is the most original version of you, it's scary because being yourself requires you to also be incredibly vulnerable, requires you to put all of yourself out there, not what the books say, not what social media says, to really put yourself all out there, be as transparent as possible, show people the flaws, show people the mistakes, show people that you're just human, I think is the best thing that you could possibly do for yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys, I feel like you took all the answers there, but I love, and I've heard this so many times, and I repeat it to myself. So believing in yourself, I just believe that not believing in something is the same as not wanting it at all. So step one, you've got to believe. So step one was understanding what I wanted, what my why was, and who I wanted to be. Step two was understanding what the cost of that was. I was fortunate enough to be in the States a little while ago, and when I announced that I was going, everybody said, "Are you going to do what Trevor Noah does? Are you going to do it? Are you going to live there now? You're going to get a show?" And my answer to all of them was, I can't afford it. And not because I'm not financially able to go to America, but I can't afford the amount of work that Trevor puts in to be able to have the things that Trevor has. So I always go, I love having a wife. I love living close to my mom. I love partying with the boys. I love playing PlayStation with Nick. And in order for me to be able to have what Trevor has, I would have to cancel out all of those things. Which means in terms of what we believed was possible for ourselves, we've done that 10 times over. So if then I go, I'm far within myself. I'm far more successful than anybody I could compare myself to, because I've achieved my wildest dreams. My difficulty now is trying to dream of what I want to do next, what we're gonna do next. I'm all about, and I think we're all about, find your happy, understand it, and then chase it as hard as you can every single day. And once you start chasing your happy, there's a weird momentum and snowball effect that comes with it, and the world just seems to open up thereafter.
That's beautiful. So, our 3 pieces of advice: you are enough, which I think more people need to understand.
Yeah.
Be yourself, which more people need to do. And define success for yourself.
For yourself.
Exactly.
For yourself.
Gentlemen, thank you for
you.
coming.
Thank you.
You
Being
are
with me
much
this
cooler than we expected. Like, no, on first, you're like a robust, wonderful person. But like a regal robustness.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Regal
Robustness.
robustness.
Thank you, gentlemen. It's a real pleasure.
Thank you.